The theme of investing in key life skills rather than leaving things to chance comes up again in one of the most important areas of life, relationships, when I speak with Amanda Lambros, one of Perth's most prominent relationship counsellors, coach and public speakers. Amanda puts forward with simple, humorous, yet painfully obvious clarity at times how at no point are we taught the foundations of how to hold and navigate ourselves within our relationships. And this is set against the context of increasing divorce rates. She shares some of the key elements and steps of the relationship foundations that not only bring more connection and meaning to our life, but can also extend our life too. This episode is packed full of value. We go into various areas, including dealing with transitions in life, the importance of being the best you in your relationship, why date night is cheaper than divorce, and how to deal with individual growth. It's absolutely packed from start to finish. It was an absolute true pleasure to tap into Amanda's wealth of knowledge, and she's a wonderfully engaging speaker, which I believe plays a key part in her delivering her message and getting her impact across. So enjoy Amanda. Hello and welcome back to WA Real. I'm your host, Bryn Edwards. Relationships are the focus area we're going to deep dive into today with my guest, Amanda Lambros. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Hey, Bryn.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I've been super excited to have this conversation since I saw you at TEDx.
It's like quite a while ago now.
Yeah, it was. I feel like a kid in a sweet shop. With so many questions.
Awesome.
All about relationships. So that's cool. But one of the first questions I always ask my guests is how they came to be in Western Australia. So you're originally from Canada.
Yep.
Whereabouts?
Windsor, Ontario. So about 4.5 hours south of Toronto, right on the border of the US. So I kind of have a little bit of an American twang, even though I've been here like 18 years. So I'm right on the border. So if you're familiar with Perth and you're standing in like South Perth, looking at Perth across the river, that's as far as I am away from the US.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm really a border city girl.
There you go. And then you came here to Western Australia in 2001.
Yep.
To study forensic sexology.
Yes.
At Curtin.
Yeah, I did my master's degree in forensic sexology.
So that's got a few questions. But first off, why here?
It was the only place in the world that offered the degree. So I really, really wanted to do that degree in particular. I was really interested in doing like forensic psychology. And when I typed in forensic psychology all those years ago back into Google, forensic sexology came up and I went, oh, no. And I was so excited because human sexuality was one of my highest grades in my undergrad course. And I thought, what better than studying sex? And then I looked up the program and it was a real program and the curriculum sounded amazing. And then I looked up the university, Curtin University, to make sure it was a real university, and it was. And then
like one of those ones you see in junk mail.
Exactly. I'm like, oh, is this one of those Dodge ones? You know, I was like, oh, I don't know. And then I looked up the staff who were running the program and their reputation, and I was like, oh my God, this is fully legit. So I told my parents about it, and my mom said, well, let's, if you want to check it out, let's take a flight to Australia and check it out and go from there. And I went, yes. Done. So
great
I came here. I know.
And then you've stayed here.
Yeah. I finished.
Tell us about that.
So I had all intention of being here for 18 months, finishing my degree, my master's degree, and then going back to Canada and, continuing on a life in Canada. And I finished my degree on a Wednesday. Went out partying with my roommate on Friday to just celebrate that I had finished, and I had 2 months left up my sleeve to just travel around Australia as you do and just check out the sites.
Hang out.
So here we are at the bar on a Friday night, and I was scoping out some of the delectable men who happened to be there, and I scoped out my husband. And I just kind of like my eyes landed on this guy and everybody else kind of disappeared in the room. And I was like, I need to go and talk to him. And my roommate said, I don't know who he is, but the guy standing next to him stood up in my first wedding. Like he was a, groomsman or something like that. She's since been divorced. But she's like, I know the guy standing next to him. And I'm like, perfect.
Let's go.
Let's go. So as we were walking towards them, I could see the look on the friend's face of like, oh my God, I don't want to see her. And so I just beeline towards the guy I wanted to see. And I was like, hi, I don't know him. My name's Amanda. Who are you? And we just started talking and hit it off. And then about a week later, so we went our separate ways. I got a handshake from him, not really what I was expecting. But he's a really great kind of country boy at heart and total gentleman. So about a week later, he sent me an email and said, would you like to get together for a drink or dinner in the city or, whenever, sometime this weekend? And I'm like, yes, I will move mountains to hang out with you. And I did. And we just hung out. So instead of me traveling for 2 months, I just hung out with him for 2 months.
And then that was that.
And that was it. And then at the end of the 2 months was Christmas. So I was going back to Canada for Christmas because that's when I was meant to move back. And instead of bringing any of my stuff back with me, I think I got onto the airplane with a carry-on and that's it. And then landed. I said to him, oh, I've got to go back for Christmas. Would you like to come with me? And he's like, yeah, I'd love to, spend Christmas in Canada, have a Canadian Christmas. And so we went back, and I think my parents picked us up at the airport. And my mom had one look at him and went, so you're never coming home, are you? And I'm like, I'm so glad you know.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that's how it all happened. And then
how come she stayed here though and didn't go to Canada?
Because this is an island and it's hot. And after growing up in Canada, the first thing you want to do is escape and go somewhere warm. Yeah. So I'm all about islands and heat. And this kind of seemed to have both of those things. Yeah. And would we go back to Canada? No. And is Canada stunning and beautiful? Yes. Do we go back very regularly because I have my parents' only grandchildren in this country? Yes. But other than that, I wouldn't live over there. I can't stand cold weather.
Do you consider yourself a proud West Aussie?
I am. And I had a little sand groper. So one of my kids was born in Queensland and the other one was born here in WA. But I'm West Aussie at heart, support all the local teams. Definitely an Eagles girl instead of a Freo girl.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, definitely support the Eagles and a whole bunch of other West Australian teams. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
So you've built a successful career as a relationships counsellor, coach, public speaking on it, which is where I found you. You're also the current president of the Marriage and Relationships Educators of Australia.
Yeah.
So there's a big focus on relationships.
Huge focus on relationships.
There's got to be a why behind that. What is the why?
I think for me, I started out, I got my bachelor, I had some counseling in there, and I have a master's of counseling as well. So I have kind of a lot of academic background to me. And most counselors start out the same. We look at people with depression, anxiety, and it's kind of nice. But I like a challenge. So I was like, why am I just dealing with one person when I could deal with two? So give me a challenge and give me two. Because what I would find is that people would individually come in to see me, but the majority of the time they wanted to talk about the impact on their relationship. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, so I've got the counseling background, I've got the sexology background. Yeah, my focus really is on couples and maintaining relationships and understanding how communication in relationships work. And we have a ridiculously high divorce rate, and it's not needed. And I'm not like pro-marriage, pro-divorce, anything like that. To me, it's as long as you're the happiest version of yourself and you have the happiest relationship for you, that's my aim. That's like, if you are happy in yourself and have a really great relationship, that's what I'm looking for. So yeah, the focus really kind of shifted into two and couples and how to make it work. And then I just did a lot more training in relationship stuff and relationship techniques and therapies and stuff like that, and loved it and just found my niche, and it just makes sense to me.
You yourself came from like a mum and dad together and
no. So my grandparents,
wondered whether there was any deeper drive to it.
Probably my grandparents, which is kind of one of the things I mentioned in my TED Talk. My grandparents had been together forever, like literally until they both died. They were together through
like a
thick
pair
and
of
thin.
seahorses.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was legitimately heaps of ups and downs, heaps of transitions in life and all that, and they stuck it out and made it work. You know, it wasn't just like, I'm going to take the easy way out. I'm just going to divorce you, live on my own. Like, it was none of that. It was, okay, here's another transition in life. How do we face this? And here's another one. And how are we going to navigate this and all that kind of stuff? And then my original parents, so my biological birth parents, my parents got divorced when I was less than a year old. And I lived with my mom and kind of didn't see my dad at all. So I call him my biological sperm, because to me, that's pretty much all he was there for. My mom remarried when I was 4 years old, and that's who I call my dad. And he's been there my whole life. Like he left his business. So he was a business owner. My mom's a business owner. And he left his business because he really just wanted to stay at home and raise kids.
Yeah.
And I am the kid. That's it. So he stayed at home and he raised me, and it was awesome because he's this really cool Greek guy who doesn't have many cooking skills. So very regularly he would make skillets of food that he'd open, like baked beans, a can of baked beans and sausages, and cut up the sausages and fry them up. And then if you crack an egg over it, obviously it tastes good. So it was like every meal my dad would make would be like, here comes the skillet and here comes a few eggs. Yeah, it'll be great. So I remember just saying to my mom, like, can we just order out tonight? Like, Dad's cooking again. But other than that, yeah, so he was there and he raised me my whole life. So that's my dad.
Yeah.
And Mom's been around forever and they're still together, which is cool. And I've seen
two solid examples there.
Two solid examples, and they've had major ups and downs, personal illnesses, family death, all that kind of stuff. And I've just seen, you know, you tough it out and you do what you need to do to focus on the relationship and get through it. So I think
is that part of the impact of what you want to get across in your work?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest impact is that I was looking at why divorce happens, like why, or even why separation happens. Why does separation or divorce or, you know, not wanting to be with someone after 15 years? Like, why do you just wake up one day and go, I don't want to be with someone?
I'm over this.
Yeah. Well, it turns out you don't just wake up one day and go, I'm over it. You kind of go, well, this has been going on for 12 to 18 months and I've made subtle little drop hints and nothing has changed. But those subtle little drop hints actually should be conversations, and they're not. And that's the biggest problem in relationships, is that we're not taught how to have a relationship.
No.
You know how to have a relationship based on your experience. Guess what your experience is? Whoever you were raised with.
Yes.
So your parents or your caregivers. And in some circumstances, if you had like whoever your best friend was growing up, you went over to their house and you saw how their parents were.
Yes.
And so then you might have had a secondary version if their parents were a little different to yours, and you're like, oh, so that's how it's done here. Huh. Okay. My parents do that a little bit different, or, you know, that kind of thing. But we don't go to school to learn how to be in a relationship or how to be a husband or a wife or a partner.
I had exactly this a couple of weeks ago with Wayne Bradshaw from the Fathering Project, who basically said, if you needed to learn marketing at work, you'd go learn marketing. If you needed to learn project management, you go and learn project management.
Yep.
When do you go and just pick up basic fathering skills?
You kind of don't. However, there are courses available and people don't go to it. So here's the conversation I was having maybe about 3 weeks ago with a girlfriend. And I said, you know, these Lamaze class people, somehow they've cottoned on to the market and they've got a great sell in it because, pregnancy class, right?
Yes.
So you have these pregnancy class. You get pregnant, first thing the doctor, the nurse, the midwife, the whoever you're dealing with in your medical treatment says, sign up for the class. Spend your 200, 300, 400, who knows how much it is now. Spend your money and go to this class so you learn how to give birth.
But the irony is your body already knows how to do that.
Right? Okay. But I can say that with 99% surety, there's probably at least 75% of everyone I know has paid for that class and gone to do it.
Yeah.
Right? So you get pregnant, you get told, go and do the class. You go, of course we have to do that. We haven't done that before. We haven't birthed a baby before. Let's go to a class and learn how to do it. So you go and you learn how to do it. And then out comes the day that, oh, well, I'm feeling that labor pain. Let's go to the hospital. Let's do this. Oh, this is totally different to what we potentially learned in class. But at least we have some foundation to go by.
Yes.
And then the next day, your parents, or that day, your parents.
Yeah.
And then you don't have any parenting skills.
Oh, yeah.
You're right. Like, you learned how to give birth, and then that's it. You didn't learn how to be a parent. So then what's your next thing? You should learn how to become a parent. And there's lots of courses and stuff available out there. And how, in my view, there's lots of great courses for couples, and it's called like Bringing Baby Home, or When Two Become Three. Because your relationship transitions a huge amount once you have a kid, and then transitions again if you have multiple kids, or like a second kid or a third kid. But when it comes to relationships, hi, I meet you at a bar. Let's share a drink. Let's go home for a shag. Yeah, my friend introduced me to you. Whatever it might be.
Go for shag.
Yeah, let's go for a shag. Oh, look, here's a pretty ring. I said I do. We go to a church. We hang out at a park and say our I do's in a park. Whatever your situation is. And then you jump into a relationship with someone that you really kind of don't know. And make it work for the next 50 years? Bullshit. Like, it's ridiculous. But there is relationship classes. People just don't go. And I know exactly why people don't go.
Well, we're going to dive into this in a minute. But
okay.
Because, right, there's a foundational question I want to ask first.
Ooh.
Because relationships are part of almost like the 4 big games we play in life. There's relationships, our health, our business or our production, and our connection to something bigger than ourselves.
Cool, yep.
Serving back to it. So and that's kind of what I've noticed through doing a bit of reading, and also through just looking across the podcast and going, hey, if I had to categorize them, which I'm doing for a website, how would I put them together? And then all of a sudden, they jumped out, and I was like, oh, wow, yeah, there you go.
Funny that.
So relationships, right. So, and we're often described as, we are social animals and stuff like this, right? Why? What is it we actually get out of them? What are we supposed to get? What do we think we're supposed to be getting out of them? What do they give us?
Okay, so way back in the day, from history, you kind of came together in a relationship really to procreate. That's what it was there for. It's if you think hunter-gatherer mentality, we're going to get together. I'm going to create, we're going to create the baby together. I'll hold it. I'll nurture it at home. You go away and you kill the bear and you bring it home for food for us and keep us warm. And I'll keep having more babies to, make sure the next generation survives, type of thing. Like that's how it was way back in the day. Now, obviously, way back in the day. Yeah. Now, relationships evolve, but fundamentally, what we're looking for is companionship. So it's somebody else to share your stories with, somebody else to share in life's ups and downs. Yeah, it does still have the fundamental concept of hunter-gatherer and protector. But those roles aren't necessarily wife stays at home, has babies and does that, and husband goes away to work. Those can be completely reversed. And nowadays there's husband 1 stays at home and does all the cooking and cleaning and and husband 2 goes to work. There's so many different ways that relationships are created nowadays.
Yes.
So companionship is one of the biggest ones. Someone to share in life's struggles, ups and downs, situations. Most problems, when you focus, when you hit them head on, if there's 2 heads thinking about it, it gets solved a little quicker. So problem solving helps with 2. And then there's amazing, amazing research that says you're bound to live longer if you're partnered. Right. So you don't have to be married. You just have to be partnered up.
Yeah.
So as long as you're in a longer term relationship, you live longer. What's that? Yeah. Well, essentially it's because I know what I think, but I also know the research. Yeah. But in reality, it's I'm looking at you every single day. I wake up with you. I go to bed with you. I pay attention to your mood, your behavior, how you physically look. So if you start losing weight, even if it's just gradually over time, I can say Bryn, what's going on? You're looking really skinny. Are you eating enough? Are you, if the skin tone of your skin changes, I'll notice it. I'll be like, oh, your skin tone doesn't look right anymore. How about we go and see the doctor? Or if you're complaining about something, or even if there's even undertones of like anxiety or depression in the conversations you're having with me, I'm more likely as a partner who lives with you day in and day out to say, let's go talk to somebody about that.
Yeah, that's not right.
Whereas if you're isolated, alone, not partnered, you don't have someone watching your back. So those people tend to actually have shorter lives.
Simple.
Yeah. And people in relationships, statistically through research, are actually happier. Which is funny because people are like, oh, not in my relationship. We're really unhappy. We conflict all the time. Or, like people say amusing things to me. And I'm like, even with conflict, you're in a you're in a happier place than people who are isolated.
Yeah.
Because you have someone to come home and share stuff with. Yeah.
So then moving on from that, are we all compatible?
So my view is, especially after watching certain television reality shows, you could have a relation if you really wanted to.
And when we say relationship, we are purely focusing on that close, intimate relationship here.
Having a partnership with somebody.
Partnership.
Yeah, having a partnership with somebody. And I think the better your partnership, the more likely you are to be intimate. So the better the partnership, the more likely you are to be intimate, the better the outcomes of the relationship, because it's a closer, deeper connection relationship, right? That starts with communication. And so my view is anybody can be with anybody if they choose to be with anybody.
Right.
But you have to make the choice and you have to put in the effort. And so it doesn't have to be like, oh, I found my soulmate and that's the person. Anybody could be in a relationship with you if you were open-minded enough,
yes,
to be in the relationship,
yes,
and to communicate in an open, honest, genuine way with that partner. So all these reality TV shows where it's like, oh, we're trying to match one person. No, if the people just got over themselves and actually got over themselves and had a relationship, learned the fundamental skills of being in a relationship and valuing yourself and somebody else, any relationship could work.
Right.
But a lot of people don't want to put the effort in.
And is there also the stories in there like oh, she's got brown hair, I like blonde hair, or she's short,
box of dye.
Tallest. Yeah. Sorry?
That's a box of dye. If I'm a blonde and you really like brunettes, guess what? I can dye my hair. I can do a box job for $15, or I can go to a real hairdresser and get it done for $250.
Yeah, and I suppose you could say the same, I like a girl with bigger boobs or something like that. Yeah.
You could get implants done. You could, go to the gym more. There's so many different things that you're like, if this is what you like. However, that's the outside focus.
Correct, yes.
And that's not really what's going to help make a lasting relationship. So I always say to people, like, are you looking to have a girlfriend or are you looking to have a wife? So it's like, are you looking to have a boyfriend or are you looking to have a husband? Because the difference between the two are vastly different.
Yes.
And so if you go in with a mindset of, I want a girlfriend, it's going to be totally different how you behave in the real relationship, what you say, all that kind of stuff, compared to, I want this person to be my wife.
Yes. And I suppose there's another little nuance in there of, are you looking forward to your wedding day or are you looking forward to your marriage?
Yeah, exactly. Because a wedding day is a day.
Is an event.
Is an event.
It's like a 30th birthday.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas a relationship or the marriage is years and years and years.
Yes.
And also, are you willing to put in the effort? Because what I find is a lot of people put in a shitload of effort in finding their partner, in courting the person. Like, I put all this effort. Oh, I got flowers. I did this. We went here. We went, a balloon riding, hot air balloon riding. We did all these, cool things when we first met. And we haven't done anything else in 10 years. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I'd want to stay with you. Not. So it's like whatever effort you put into finding the person, times that by 10.
Yes.
And keep it going on a daily basis. Yeah. Otherwise, your relationship is going to fall into complacency and then separation, divorce.
So what then is the spark at the start? Like, you just talked about, I looked across the bar and there's this hunky guy, like, I need to go and meet him. And then, kapow, he's your husband.
Exactly.
So what's that?
But it's still like that because I've purposely put effort into it. So when I'm at home, I look forward to my husband coming home. I'm like, I can't wait for my little hunky hubby to come home and walk through the door, and I'm gonna make out with him and all that kind of, like, I legitimately look forward to seeing him every day.
Yes.
A lot of people don't have that.
Is that considered effort that then becomes a behaviour that then gets momentum and then...
Got it. Yeah, so it's like I didn't let it wax and wane. I didn't go, ooh, all the sparks in the beginning, and then I'll do nothing, and then, when the relationship's on the rocks and shit's hit the fan, ooh, now I'll put some effort in again.
Yeah, I'll chuck it back in.
No, I put effort in every single day. Every time I see my husband. If he's sitting on the long couch and I'm sitting on the short couch, I kind of look over and go, oh, why am I doing this? No, I have to be aware of my own behavior. I can't sit on this short couch when my husband's on the long couch. I'm going to move over there, or I'll say, hey, hun, come and join me on the short couch. Those kind of things, going out of my way, as opposed to leaving those thoughts in my head and going, oh, I really wish he was over here with me.
Yeah, and stewing in your story.
Exactly. He can't read my mind. He's not a mind reader. He's not a clairvoyant. And even if he was, you should still open your mouth and ask him. So for me, it goes back to communication. Don't just sit there and hope someone hears what's going on in your head. Open your mouth and talk to your partner.
So a big part of this podcast is exploration, and part of that exploration and curiosity is predicated on the idea that success leaves clues.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the most appropriate question to ask here? What makes a great relationship, or what fucks them up? Or are they two equally valid questions?
I think they're two equally valid questions.
I suspected so, but I thought I'd ask.
Yeah. So what makes a great relationship is continuous, open, honest, genuine communication between the partners. Knowing that no matter what, when I open my mouth to have a conversation with you, it is not intended to harm you or our relationship. So if that's your foundation of your relationship, then there's never, ever going to be a point in time that you feel that I'm pushing you up against a wall verbally with my words. Because you recognize that that's not my intent. My intent is to find a way to better our relationship. So I'm going to say something, and then we have to work on what's being said, as opposed to I'm going to attack you. Whereas in a lot of relationships, so I'm going to attack you and then you're going to defend.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to feel attacked and so I'm going to defend. And that's what really royally fucks up relationships, is this attack and defend situation, as opposed to understanding that the person that you've chosen to love the most in the world is not there to attack you. And so for me, I think that's the biggest thing. It might
trigger you.
It might trigger you, but that's based on all your own stuff.
Shit.
That's your shit from your past, your life, who you were raised with, where you grew up, all that kind of stuff. That's your own crap. And that's where relationship education is so important, because it teaches you, learn what your stuff is, recognize what your partner's stuff is, and then when your partner or you get triggered about it, have a conversation about it, because you have no intent to harm that relationship. So whereas if you're bringing, I always call it like the veil. If you're bringing your veil of I'm not good enough to the relationship, and the partner makes a comment like, I might come home and dishes aren't done, right? So if I say, oh, there's a sink full of dishes again. Now, if you're my partner with a veil of I'm not good enough, then you start to feel personally attacked.
Yeah.
I didn't personally attack you. I made a comment about our dishes.
Yeah.
I didn't say, what the hell, you've been home all day doing podcasts and you haven't done the dishes? What's wrong with you? Those words didn't come out of my mouth. But because of whatever veil you're wearing, you'll interpret it that way. And so that's part of relationship education, is understanding what veils what you wear and what your partner wears, so that you can better understand them. And to actually ask questions of your partner, where a lot of people don't. We make assumptions. Those kill relationships. So what royally fucks up a relationship? Assumptions.
Yeah.
Never make an assumption.
What? Amanda's always like this.
Yeah.
So,
oh, Amanda did that in the past, therefore Amanda's going to do that in the future.
Yes.
No. Or Amanda's mom did something that way, therefore Amanda's going to do it. No. Assumption. So never ever make an assumption. Never ever mind read or hope that someone will mind read you. Like if I just stare at you long enough, hopefully you'll figure out what's in my head.
Oh, that great one. If you don't know what's wrong, then I'm just not going to tell you because it makes life worse. Yeah.
it's like no.
It's like, well, that's really fucking helpful.
Exactly. So that's a really, really bad one. And excuses. Because when we start out, when you have that spark, when you're meeting someone for the first time, you don't bank on excuses. Like if the boss says to you, oh, can you stay late for work tonight? You go, oh, sorry, I've actually got this really hot date with this chick I just met. So I'd love to, but I'm not going to because I've got this hot date. And so you would move mountains to be with the person when you're sparking and courting. And then life gets in the way and excuses are allowed in. And then it's like, oh, babe, I know we were meant to go to dinner tonight, but I just got to stay at work a little bit later to do X. Yeah. And so it allows excuses to come in. Or, oh, they're just like that because they're a guy. Or they're just like that because... No becauses, no excuses. Those things kill relationships. Yeah.
Reflecting on that. Obviously, to get to that point with clients and people, as in, crap, it's not me, it's not her, it's our skill set. Yeah. And at the moment, I'm just running off patterns subconsciously, and I'm the product of those patterns, which I've picked up from mum, dad, auntie, uncle, friend down the road, all of that. Yeah. And then to go, shit, you know, it's not just me. It's not, oh, I'm fucking useless at relationships. It's just, you know, I haven't got my skill set down. Yep. Or this, that, and the other. And I'm okay in that. That obviously takes, best word I can come up with, that almost takes a point of enlightenment, you know, or a point of awakening to suddenly just go, oh.
But it shouldn't though, right?
No. Let's not bring should into it just yet. We can bring should in a minute. Okay. How do you get clients to that point? Because surely that's half the battle, half the work. And then after that, then it's all, right, well, I'm in. Skill me up.
Yeah. So unfortunately in Australia, totally understand your question. Unfortunately in Australia, what happens is the point at which someone sees a relationship counselor is usually, definitely in my experience, about 18 months after when they should have come in to see me. Yes. So shit hits the fan.
It's almost like 2 weeks to live with stage 4 cancer.
Yeah, pretty much, right? So shit hits the fan 12 to 18 months ago. And you go, I can't live like this anymore. We have to change. Okay, babe, I'll get the book. I'll watch the YouTube videos. I'll do whatever I need. Like, I'll make a really good effort at changing. So they put some whatever effort because one of the partners has said, I'm out. I'm gone. I'm done. This is bullshit. Yeah. I'm out. Pulling the plug. Yeah. Usually by that point, they've already had enough. So this didn't happen like Thursday night and now it's Friday and I'm out. This has been going on long enough. I've dropped those little hints. Nothing's happened. Okay, crisis point. I'm done. This is bullshit. And then someone goes, okay, well, let's get the book. Let's do the video. Let's do da-da-da-da-da-da. And change occurs for maybe, I'll give someone a really good effort, maybe a month. Maybe 4 weeks of effort gets put in because they realize, holy shit, my partner's about to walk out and my life is going to fundamentally change. Yes. So 4 weeks of effort goes in.
And then you'll be desperate.
Yeah. So 4 weeks of effort goes in.
Yeah.
And then old habits return. So then that goes on for another 12 to 18 months. And then they go, I am out. I am so resentful against you. I have this bent up issue with you that's just got worse and worse and worse. Yeah, all of that shit. And they go, I asked you 12 months ago to change. Oh, I did. Yeah. For what? 4 weeks?
Yeah.
And look at where we're at now. So nothing has changed. That's the point. Oh, yeah. Big time. That's then the point they come in to see me.
Yeah.
So in reality, you're coming in to see me 18 months way after the point you should have come in to see me. So in some cases by then, I've had a partner who's completely emotionally disconnected. They may have actually already physically separated, where there's either sleeping in separate rooms or living in separate houses.
Yeah. Let alone emotionally checked out.
Yeah, completely. Either emotionally or physically checked out. Like, no wonder relationship educators and counselors get a bad rap on stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're not using us for what we're actually there for. You're using us in crisis situation. Hi, try to repair this, the dam. Oh, the Titanic's hit the iceberg. Can we put a little Band-Aid on it and see if it works? No. No. Not when one partner doesn't even want to be here and is totally checked out. So in reality, what should be happening is... Should be happening is when you get into a relationship. So I always compare things to like cars. I'm not a car person. Like, I own a car, but that's that's the extent. And I'm not a mechanic. But I know that when I buy a new car, I have to... At 1,500 kilometers, so I have barely even driven my car, but at 1,500 kilometers, you go for the first little, checkup.
Yeah.
Little twiggy checkup. So it's not a far distance you've driven, but it's a little quickie checkup. So it's kind of like, okay, so you get into a relationship. Within 6 months of knowing someone and going, I actually think I want a relationship with this person, go and see a relationship educator. So you may not be... Exactly. Go and see a relationship educator. So you may not be engaged. You may not be married. You just have the intent to potentially have a relationship with this person. 3 to 6 months in. That's your 1,500 kilometer checkup, right? So you go in and you start to learn from a relationship education perspective how to lay a foundation for a relationship. You start to learn the skills.
Yes.
Right? Then, like a car, every 15,000 kilometers... you bring the car back in for a checkup, regardless if it needs it, right?
Yeah.
Same with your relationship. So I always say that's a good 3 months. So every 3 months, regardless if things are going great or horrible, go in to see either a relationship educator or a relationship counselor.
Yeah.
Okay? Because...
It's not got the stigma of something's wrong.
Exactly. It's, everything's going... Hey, it's been 3 months since we've seen you. Everything's going great. Nothing's major... issue, and I go, oh, wonderful. Here's a few more strategies to strengthen your relationship for the next 3 months.
I'm sure the educator will prod
Oh, absolutely. Areas. Because people come in and go, everything's great. And you're like,
right.
Sure it is. However, if shit's hit the fan, I only have 3 months of crap to clean up.
Yes.
Right? I don't have 18 months or 5 years of stuff to clean up.
10
or 10. Exactly. I've got 3 months. And then you go, okay, guys, here's how we clean this up. Here's what you do moving forward. Maybe I see you in 2 weeks' time instead of 3 months, just until you get this under wraps. And then you come back in 3 months, and that's the same thing with your car. Oh, I ran over a pothole and blew out my tire. Well, Amanda, you're going to need to replace that one tire. So come back in, we'll replace that one tire. And then in, 15,000 more kilometers, we'll do another checkup. So it's the same kind of thing. Now, the difference between relationships and cars is that in order to buy my first car and drive it, I have to take lessons. And I got to pass tests. And I've got to know what the hell I'm doing so that I don't harm anybody else or myself. Personally, should that happen in relationships? Absolutely. You should have to take communication and relationship classes before you get into a relationship, while you're in a relationship, so that you're not going to harm anybody else or yourself. But we don't do that. And that's why I still have a job.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm okay with that.
Yes. But it's down the other end of the scale, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not at the front of the scale.
No. And it should be at the front of the scale. It really shouldn't be a taboo to say, we're going to get relationship education.
Yeah.
I'm going to driving class, Oh, what are you doing this weekend?
Yeah, and I've never actually come across the name relationship educator or education. Normally it's been counsellor. And counsellor to me usually sounds therapy equals therapy.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary. Yeah. And I think there's a massive difference. So relationship educators are exactly that. We educate people. We have the skills, knowledge, and tools to create the best possible relationship for you in that current relationship. And there's a whole range of them worldwide, but in Australia, we have like the Marriage and Relationship Educators Association of Australia. There's a huge connection of people across Australia who do this stuff. Use them. Like, they've got the skills. They're great. There's also relationship counselors. Some relationship counselors are relationship educators, like myself. So I do both, which is great. Yeah. But when you do get into the counseling mode, it's more like spot fires. We got a few little spot fires that we need to put out first, and then we'll do the education to move forward.
Right.
Whereas crisis counseling in a relationship is one person has left, one person is completely out. Now we got to figure out, how do we separate? How do we divorce? How do we tell our kids about this? How do we live two separate lives? Whereas in reality, if they have kids, they're still connected for the rest of their life. So it's, how do we amicably separate in a way that we're still fully involved in each other's lives for the rest of our lives? And there's definitely ways to do that. And better yet, there's couples who have no kids who are just amazing friends, and they want the relationship to stay as friends, but no longer have an intimate relationship. So it's like, how do I step away from this intimate relationship to really focus on having a valuable friendship with this person and not destroying our friendship? Yeah, you can do that. And there's people who know how to help you through that. I'm one of them. But those are the kind of things that it's like, I really wish that people saw the benefit of doing this, as opposed to, I'm going to wait till shit hits the fan. And then crisis care, I'm going to Google, potential divorce counseling, or who to talk to when my marriage is going to shit counseling. Like, that's kind of not the point you should be talking to somebody.
If it was your own body, you'd be bits falling off, overweight, or whatever.
Yeah.
At that point.
You'd have a car with no tires. How are you getting somewhere? Not so quickly. So, yeah, it becomes a really big issue. And people come in at that point hoping that I have some magic wand, which I don't have. And then hoping that, you know what? And counseling's expensive. Like, don't get me wrong. Relationship education and counseling is expensive. The flip side is, how much was your wedding dress? How much did you spend on your wedding? Yeah. So how much did you spend on your wedding? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. And you don't want to spend $200 on like your relationship to talk to someone who actually has the skills to help you through it?
Yeah. Maybe if you just shrunk the budget by 10%, put it in somewhere, and then committed to some education going forwards.
Yeah. And if you think about it that way, it's like, how much money did you spend on one day, that one event, one day? And how much money are you putting towards 40, 50 years?
Yeah.
And when you kind of pull back and say it to people like that, it's like, well, how much do you have a relationship fund? And they look at me like I got a third freaking head, let alone a second one, like a third one. They're like, what do you mean relationship fund? Well, how much money do you have aside that you're spending strategically on bettering your relationship every single week, month, or year? They look at me like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. We don't have one of those.
It's hilarious. In the absence of, sitting here listening to you, and I went through a 12-year relationship, which came to pieces for a whole lot of reasons. And I spent quite an amount of time reflecting upon that, all the things that I did and didn't do, and what have you. And looking to the future now, I'm engaged. It's kind of like, and then looking at the outside world, because there's nothing like being separated from a long-term relationship to draw everybody in to come and have a chat with you, especially someone like me who does podcasts and talks and, oh, go and have a pint with Bryn, he'll sort you out. and that sort of crap. And I look back now and start to see, Jesus Christ, like we sort of bump into one another. Like you say, we have a shag, we kind of like it, we get attracted for some chemical reason that we can't quite explain. And then there gets almost like this, oh, well, I want more of that buzz, so I'll just hang around. And then you do what you should do, like, oh, mate, you've been with her for like 18, 24 months, isn't it about time you popped your ring on it? And all of that. And then you just blindly bumble through a valley of darkness.
Yes!
With no torch, except for when it gets shitty. And the other thing is that, well, your friends around you, and to a degree, your family around you compound it.
Yep. Because
they've most likely done the same thing. And certainly when you're together at the start, it's all like, oh, well, he seems happy. Mm-hmm. So let's not rock the boat. That's what my parents were like. Like, Bryn seems like he's happy. Yeah. No, not deeply down. I was deeply sad. I just wanted someone to come and slap me and go,
what the hell are you doing?
What the hell are you doing? You really should be here. And so there's all of that. And then there's another level on top of it whereby, you watch films and it gets to the point of wedding and then happily ever after.
Yeah.
Well, that's not right. and so it actually makes blindingly obvious sense when I sat down and thought about it. And now you've added to this that shit, we don't know.
No, because we never taught it.
Yeah, and to actually sit there and go, I don't know this, is probably one of the most empowering things. It's also, it's really good because it puts you in this place of, oh, if I don't know, then I can go and learn. And it takes a whole lot of weight off your shoulders. Like, oh, crap, what should I be doing? What's
Yeah.
I've rather than trying to be a good husband, get good at being a husband.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the important bit is if you don't know something, you go and learn.
Yeah.
Right?
Like we said, marketing, project management.
Relationships. I'll just figure it out. And if I don't got it, you know what? I'll give mom a call and I'll see what she would do in this situation. Well, just because that's what mom would do in this situation doesn't necessarily mean it's right for you to do in this situation.
Do you want to repeat your parents? Now, parents have been great and this, that and the other, but surely the point of procreating is to evolve past our parents.
Exactly.
And I had a real long conversation with myself about this.
Yeah.
Evolving past my parents, evolving past my father. And not just doing that, and not just waiting till the day he dies, I suddenly go, fuck, I'm on my own now.
Yeah. So it's really interesting for me because recently I met someone. I was standing next to someone who is a marriage celebrant. So female marriage celebrant and I, sexologist, marriage educator, her and I were standing together having this conversation. And then a third acquaintance that we know came up and he's newly engaged.
Yeah.
Newly, like they'll be married, I think, by the end of the year. And he is on, she will be wife number 3. He has 2 older daughters from previous relationships. He's been with this partner for 7 years, but they're only newly engaged. And they have a very young, like 2-3-year-old daughter. Cute little kid together. So anyways, we're having this conversation and we say congratulations on the recent engagement. My friend who's the marriage celebrant said, well, if you ever need a marriage celebrant, because I hear you might need one coming up, here's my card. Would love to, help you guys out if I'm around. He grabs her card and he says, God, that would be lovely. I know she would love to have a female celebrant, blah, 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 blah. Great. So I said, well, if you ever need some relationship education, I'm always around and I'm here. I'm only a phone call away or an email away, And he's like, Amanda, we don't need that stuff. And I went, okay.
Number 3.
So third relationship, 7-8 years together, just now engaged and have a young child together. So in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, you have no clue.
Dude, you're just going to repeat the same cycle.
Exactly. But this is what people do. People go, I don't want to talk to a therapist. I don't need relationship education. I should know how to do this. And I'm like, bullshit.
Wow.
What is up people's butts that they just kind of go, oh, I can't talk to anybody about my relationship. It's so taboo. It's ridiculous. But we're willing to go and learn how to push a baby out of our crotch. And I'm like...
Even though the body actually does that.
Naturally. Your body will take over and naturally expel a child out of your body. But let's go and pay someone to learn how to do that. But hi, you have no relationship skills except for what you've learned from your parents, caregivers, or, family, friends.
How you've interpreted it as a young kid, and it's all subconscious.
Yeah. But I don't want to learn about that thing, since that's a little too close to home. Okay.
So, 3 questions. I'm going to go with one. They're all coming out. Given that more often than not you're at crisis point, when is the end of a relationship? When should it finish?
Usually the end of a relationship, unfortunately, is when when one of the partners, because it's very rare that it happens at the same time. So it's usually when one of the partners has either emotionally or physically checked out from the relationship. Completely. Yeah. You could still be living in the same house together, but as roommates it's complacent roommates. And by the time someone's emotionally or physically checked out, getting the pull to get back into that relationship is really difficult. Not really successful. Because one person will really want to still be in the relationship, or, okay, now I'm willing to do anything it takes. And the other person's like, why now?
Yeah.
The hell have you been waiting on?
Yeah. Life's too short.
Yeah. So they've already either moved on, they've already mentally separated. This person's no longer my partner. They've mentally already looked at Gone there. They're gone. They've gone there.
They've pictured the place without...
They've pictured another house without this partner. They've pictured themselves with somebody else in a happier relationship. They've, they have stepped out. And by the time someone's stepped out,
it's done.
Yeah.
More often than not.
Yeah. And in some cases, someone's physically stepped out and has even maybe found somebody else, started a relationship with somebody else, but is still living with their current partner because they just don't have the heart to say to them, I'm out. Or they've said to them, I'm out. And the partner's like, but no, now I'll work on it. And it's like, okay, you're obviously not hearing what I'm saying. I'll just hang back with you, but this, it's not going to go anywhere. So, yeah, usually by then it's not good.
In the relationship education, what are some of the key areas that you sort of dwell on?
There's usually 12 key areas. Yeah. There's 12 key areas that we touch on. Yep.
Yeah.
And
those 12 are.
Right off the top of my head. Those 12, some of them are, one of the biggest things is communication. That's usually a make or break for a lot of relationships. So communication is huge. Conflict and conflict resolution.
Yep.
Assertiveness is really important as well. So how to actually say what you want to say and what you mean to say in a way that your partner will hear it. And listening is actually really important as well, because I may say something to you, but because of whatever veil you might be wearing, you hear it differently than how I'm actually intending to say it to you. So then having a one-way conversation is useless unless I turn around and say, okay, Bryn, so what did you hear me say? And then when you repeat it back to me, I can then verify, yeah, that's exactly what I meant. And then you have a really good conversation moving forward. Finance is usually always discussed because that's really important. So the way you do finance might be different to how I do finance. So how are we going to do finance?
Yep. And your relationship with money.
Exactly. Huge impact on your actual relationship. Sex and intimacy is discussed because that's really important. Family of origin. So how you were raised and, whether your family was flexible or inflexible, whether your family's connected or disconnected, and how how you see that as being a strength or a growth area, and how you would like to move forward with that in this relationship. Like you could say, oh, I felt my family was overly connected. And so I'd like to be connected, but not quite that much. And then explain what it is to your partner and stuff like that. What else? Leisure activities. That's another thing. Like, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do for fun? Because one of the best outcomes of a relationship is continuing to have fun together.
Yeah.
Because when you're courting and when you're sparking, oh, funny that, chances are you were doing really fun, exciting things and having fun together. And it might be, you might be into race cars and I'm like not at all into race cars. And you say, oh, Amanda, let's go to Barbagallo or watch some, Formula One or something like that. And I have no clue what it's all about. But
I just want to be with him, so I'll go, yes.
Exactly.
And then after a period of time, the truth of the situation is I don't really like motorsport.
I don't really like it, but you know what? We had a great time together.
Yeah.
We had a blast. You taught me about it. I didn't realize this much went into it. I didn't realize they had like crazy reflex skills, all that kind of stuff. So it's like you allow yourself to be curious.
Yes.
And if you come at a relationship from a point of curiosity and stay curious all the way through that relationship, it's not going to go south. And you're going to continue to have fun together.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. So leisure activities and hobbies. Spiritual beliefs. Now, not saying like you need to be a religion. It's what are your morals and values? Because the way you were raised and your morals and values, funny that, may be different to mine. But how are we going to approach it together in this relationship? And how do we want this to look together?
Yes.
So yes, we can be polar opposites. But now that we're having a relationship together, and even further down the track, if we have kids together, it's how do we look at this from a joint effort space that best suits us as a relationship?
Yes.
And these are conversations people just fail to have until something big happens.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
let's get married. Yeah, I want to be in a church. Oh, I don't want to be in a church.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to get married on the beach.
Yeah.
What do you mean you want to get married at a church? No, let's get married on the beach. Oh, well, this isn't going to work. Okay, well, let's talk about why you want to get married in
we're
a
at conflict
church.
as opposed to bigger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Cool. This is awesome.
So those are the kind of things. What else do we... God, there's so many different things we talk about. Those are some of the key...
Where do boundaries sit in there?
Actually, relationship roles and boundaries are really important. So when you're creating your relationship foundation, that's when you have to create your boundaries as well. So it's kind of like when you have kids, right?
I have a daughter.
A kid? Okay, a kid. Okay, so I have 2 boys. Now, one of the worst things, and I'm sure if you've ever done parenting courses or spoke to someone or, been a parent yourself, you don't set the boundaries and the rules for your kids when they're 15. You set them when they're born, 3 months, 6 months. You get the little, I don't know, however you want to do it, timeout mat. You get the little time. That's it. Sit on the timeout mat or 1, 2, 3 magic or whatever it might be.
You've got to instill the discipline and the tone.
Yeah, from early on.
You know the tone?
Yeah. Or the look.
Up with the stare. The tone and the stare.
The tone and the stare, right?
Yeah.
So
you got to instill them.
If you start that from day dot and you follow through with it, then by the time they get to 15, they're not being complete jerks.
Yeah.
They hear your tone. They see your look. You don't even have to say anything.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you know what? Sorry, can't go to the mall tonight with you. My dad says, I've got to stay home. They already know without having to ask.
Yes.
Well, it's the same thing for a relationship.
Correct.
So you can't go 10 years into a relationship and then go, oh, actually, let's talk about this boundary. Well, I've always done this. For the last 10 years, I've done this.
Yeah.
So why now a boundary? Why now
shutting me out or something? No.
Exactly.
Yes.
So whenever there's boundaries, they need to be set early on and understand the purpose behind them as well. And then follow through with them. And another, a should thing that should be done that usually doesn't get done till much later when it becomes a problem.
Where does feeding yourself and your own development and your own growth sit within a relationship? Because previously I was guilty of like, it's all about this and that, and then neglecting myself
Mm-hmm.
in it. And so I guess I'm quite sensitive about it, but also I participated on a thread discussion recently about people who are leaving corporate careers to try and set something up, a business, become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And it's really lighting them up, because now they've gone from
9 to 5,
this, that, and the other, and now they're the master of their own ship and destiny, and they're all like, rah! And it's so exciting with its highs and lows and this and that. And they were talking about how did your wife, how did your partner
feel about
this? Are they on the journey with you going, come on, or they want to be like that, or are they sitting back going, oh shit, Dave's different to what he used to be, because the last 10-15 years he's been the corporate guy, and all of a sudden Dave the Lion has woken up, and like shit, like, you know. And so that was a really good example of a bigger point,
mm-hmm.
in the fact that, you know, certainly from here on the podcast, I talk to, one of the major themes that I try to look for in the discussions with people is where they've had these epiphanies and they're like, oh my God, this is what I really need to do. And I've been playing by life scripts, and now I've woken up, and now I need to act on this. And then poof, and you know, it can be amazing and things open up. But then these people around you, the closest people around you are that, you know, your partner, and then all of a sudden it's like, holy crap, this person's different. And I think to say that that's never going to happen is a complete fallacy. I mean, I believe that we're living at a time when people are, dare I say, you know, expanding and learning so much quicker, and having greater epiphanies and more frequent epiphanies. And so it's not will this happen, won't this? I just think it will.
Mm-hmm.
And so how does that turn up in a relationship?
So the big thing is,
if
if you have open, honest, genuine communication with your partner, then you are fully on board all the way through, because you can talk about it honestly without harming each other or the relationship. But what happens is, and why I got a job, people don't do that. Right?
Yeah.
So people go,
I got a job at the back end.
Yeah, exactly. So people go, okay, I'm going to leave the 9 to 5 and I'm going to do entrepreneurship. And, you know, anyone out there who's listening to this who thinks like, I'm going to leave 9 to 5 and do entrepreneurship and I'll have all this time up my sleeve. Not for a while. No. You are your own boss, but you're your own boss for 23 hours of the day and you sleep 1. Or, you know, like you are hustling until you get the foundations down.
Yeah.
And that really does make or break a lot of relationships. I have so many people who come in who are entrepreneurs who say, I just, you know, work-life balance, that kind of thing. Like, how do I manage growing my business and still focusing on me and focusing on my relationship? Like, something's got to give. And it doesn't need to be that way. And I also have a lot of corporate clients who come in who say, my requirements of working in this job as senior level management or CEO.
You've gone from here to here.
Exactly. They've slowly climbed up the ladder, or climbed up rather quickly, and now they find themselves in the senior management position, and it's like, but I don't really feel I'm being true to myself or true to our relationship, or we used to do date night a lot and now I feel like we can't. Well, no, again, that's an excuse. And so like how we started and said
excuses,
excuses kill relationships, right? So I guess for me, one of the biggest things around all of this is kind of, how are you communicating your wants and needs with your partner? Because you're going to have your own individual wants and needs. Your partner's going to have their own individual wants and needs.
Are they listening to that?
Exactly. And then you're going to have relationship wants and needs.
Yes.
So the idea is, in any relationship, you need to be number one. And now this goes against the grain from what a lot of people think.
Say that again.
You need to be number one.
Yes.
So in your relationship, you need to be number one. You need to be the happiest version of yourself. So whatever you have to do to make sure that your mental health is good, that your work environment's good, that you're genuinely happy, healthy, that, you know, you're working out, you're eating healthy, you're taking care of you.
Yeah, so
that's number one priority.
Your shit that you need to own and deal with.
Absolutely.
And take responsibility for.
Yeah, so you're number one.
The stuff that you would have to, whether the relationship was there or not.
Exactly. Because then if you're the best version of you, you can provide that best version to the relationship. So if you have two people who are the best versions of themselves, providing the best to the relationship, you're going to end up with a hell good relationship, right?
Stratospheric.
But what happens is people get into a relationship and go, I'll bend over backwards for my partner. I'll give up me and all the things I love doing and my hobbies and my whatever, my social life, my blah, 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 so that I can spend more time with my partner and be with my partner, because that's what you're supposed to do in relationships, right? Bum, bum.
No.
So then people give all of themselves to the relationship.
Yes.
Neglect themselves.
Yes.
Become gradually unhappier, and then develop a resentment because it was you who made me give up my hobbies. It was because of you. I spent more time with you instead of going out to dance, instead of going out to be with my girlfriends, instead of da-da-da. So then a level of resentment creeps in.
Yeah.
And then the relationship goes to shit.
Yes.
Because now I resent you and I don't get to hang out with my friends or be happy with me.
These are all the things I would like to do, and this is what I'm presenting, and there's the tension in the middle.
And then the relationship goes to shit. And then you're left on your own, actually still reeling in pretty unhappiness.
Yes.
Because you think your happiness is so far away from where you currently are. Because it is. Because you gave up who you are for the relationship. Yeah. Which you should never ever do. Yeah.
And then you're left on your own with a person, yourself, who you don't know.
Yep. You got it. Yep.
Super alone.
So then when you're the best version of you and your partner is the best version of them, and then you have the best version of your relationship, then if you bring kids into the mix, you too are the best versions of yourselves, and you have the best version of the relationship to have the best family possible. Whereas that's the other mistake people make, is people have kids and then they go, my priority is my kids. And then where are you on that list of priorities?
And where's the relationship?
Exactly.
On that list of priorities.
Yeah. So if you are the best version of you, you'll have the best version of your relationship. You'll then be able to have the best version of your relationship. Absolutely.
And it all comes back down, like you said, to the origin of taking responsibility for the best version of yourself.
Yep. Because fundamentally, if you are happy in yourself, you look forward to having a relationship.
Yeah.
You look forward to hanging out with your partner who's also happy, hanging out with your kids or doing things or going camping or whatever it might be, going to the movies, kicking a football around, whatever it is. You actually look forward to it. As opposed to if your priority is your kid and you go, oh, I've got to take them to this event or that event, and I haven't seen my husband or spoken to him in months, and it's like we share a house together, and I'm really internally unhappy. Not a life I want to live, thanks. Like, check out, and that's pretty much what people do.
Yeah.
So they check out, and then they refocus. So they check out, but they're still in the relationship. So they're still in the house, or they're still in the same bed. But then what they do is they're so unhappy with the relationship and unhappy with who they've become. And if they have kids in that situation, they just wholeheartedly focus on the kids.
Yes.
I'll drive the kids everywhere. I'll drive the kids here. I'll go to that event with them.
I've now become the master to the kids and the relationship.
You got it.
And this, that, and the other, until you hit a snapping point. And then you have a choice, because you either spend some time reflecting on where it all went and this, that, and the other, or, great phrase that a friend of mine put, you monkey bar your way straight into another one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was a great analogy I was given recently about we are projectors onto a screen, and so instead of going, oh, what am I projecting onto the screen, it's like, oh, I'll change the screen for another screen because that'll change the movie. No, it won't.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so therefore, because I've long had this sort of, I thought it was quite militant, but I actually think it's just commonsensical, that it's almost incumbent upon us to spend at least 10, 20 minutes each day being quite introspective and reflective of who we are, where we are, and how we're showing up and how we're performing and where do we want it all to go.
Yep.
And again, to not do that just means you're wandering around in the valley, dark.
Almost haphazardly.
Yes.
And like, it really...
And we're so creative when we focus.
It kind of saddens me when people come in, and because, again, so let's say you have that, you know, not so great situation where you're putting all your effort and focus on the kids. Your relationship's gone to the wayside, but you're still in the relationship.
Yes.
And kind of, you're a mess because you on the list of priorities is way down there. Then the kid leaves the house. The kid's grown up, gone to university, college, whatever, gone traveling overseas.
Yeah.
And you leave the house. And then I have these essentially middle-aged mothers come to see me who are at a loss because they don't know who they are. They don't fundamentally know who they are. It's like, I don't know who I am. My entire identity revolved around being a mom to my child who has now left.
Yes.
Now what do I do?
Oh, we're back at the identity level. This is a recurring theme in my podcast at the moment.
There you go. Yeah. And it's a huge thing. So people come in and say, I want to be happy. Okay, well, you need to define what happy is, because what happy means to you and what happy means to me might be vastly different things. So you need to define what happy is for you. And then what does that look like? So I need something tangible to say, in order to be happy, I need to be doing this. It might be taking a shower every morning. It might be doing your makeup. It might be doing your hair. It might be having a cup of coffee with a friend every day. Whatever it is, you have to be able to say, I know I'm happy when, or I know I'm the best version of myself when. And really creating that identity of who you are is important, and not letting it just disappear because you're in a relationship or because you have kids. Because when the kids are gone or the relationship is legitimately over, you're left there on your own, and that's a really sad situation. If
in a relationship which you don't know either.
Yeah.
What are the different phases of a relationship, and do we need to... Obviously, we've talked about
the spark,
and the shagging, and I'll come to the motor racing and all of that. And do you see different phases as...
There's definitely transitions in a relationship. So there's like the spark, that one kind of everyone really knows, and the courting period. So spark and courting period. And then there's usually like an acclimatization period. It's like, you know, I feel as though, which is very wrong, but I feel as though we've asked each other all the questions, and I know you really well, and I know you like a squeeze of lemon in your water in the morning, or, you know, like whatever. I feel like I know you. So then what happens is the questions die off, or the dating dies off, or the courting dies off a little bit. And it really shouldn't. But that's another phase, is that this kind of like acclimatization of the relationship. I've become accustomed to you and us, and this is kind of nice and soft and comfortable, and, you know, not really good.
That's the fertile ground for the...
Yeah, so that's one transition. And then the relationship usually goes through additional transitions. So if the relationship chooses to have kids, that's usually another transition of how you're going to navigate 1, 2, or multiple kids. Another transition is a work environment. So if you met younger and you were students, and then you're getting into a real job and then maintaining that job, and then as you climb up a corporate ladder, all those transitions along the way are going to impact on your relationship. If there's any physical illness within each partner, death of parents, or best friends, or things like that. So another transition that we actually look at is how are you going to manage that? Like, my parents live in Canada.
Yeah, so it's more transitions than phases.
Yeah, so it's really like these life transitions, and how are you going to are you going to navigate them?
Those foundations, from what you were talking about, you know, those things that you rattled off earlier on.
Yeah,
if they're in place.
Oh, absolutely. That's the whole thing. So if you get relationship education early, set the foundation for your relationship, then when any crisis or anything does occur, like, oh, shit, we have to fill in the blank, you already have such a great foundation laid out that you know how to talk about it. Or chances are you've already talked about it and now you just have to action it. So, like for me, my parents are in Canada and they're getting on in their years. My mom's a lot younger than my dad. And my husband's dad and his stepmom live in Australia. But it's like if my parents died or one or the other died, I have to go to Canada. Like it's not we'll wait till we have enough money and then I'll just show. No, like if one of them dies, I'm getting on a plane and I'm going.
Yeah.
And even last year, my dad was really sick and we thought something might occur. Like we thought, surely he's going to die. The doctor gave him an expiration date and said he probably won't make it. Yeah, he goes, he probably won't make it to July. Yeah. And we're like, okay. So up I go. Hey kids, get in the plane and we're out. You know, there's no question about it. It's not do you think we can? Oh, maybe we should. These are foundation things that we discussed that if anything ever occurred, this is the move.
This is the contingency
This is what we're going to do. Yeah.
This is the response plan.
And so it's already happened. So it's, yes, a crisis occurred, but then it's a quick conversation with my husband that says, hey, babe, just heard about this crisis and I think it's going to require me going home. Are you happy for me to go alone or do you think I should bring the boys? Or, so we've already had that conversation. So if he turned around and said, oh, well, actually, the kids are in school. Let's keep them in school. I'll manage them while you're gone. Don't worry about it. Cool. No problem. If he turns around and he goes, well, it happened over school holiday break. So he goes, well, there's 2 weeks and then it's school holiday break. So just pull them out. They'll miss 2 weeks of school. No big deal. It's not like they're doing, year 12 finals or anything. So, if you feel more comfortable traveling with the boys, travel with them. They can make some memories with your dad just in case. And I went, awesome, great.
Done.
Turned around to the school the next day, said, by the way, the boys are going to be pulled out in 2 days' time and we're flying out. And it was done. And I said to my husband, like, do you want to come as well? And he's like, no, I'm cool. I'm good to stay here. I just seen your dad over at Christmas, so we're good. I understand the importance of you being home.
Yeah.
Thanks, babe. I'm out. So it wasn't like,
check.
Yeah, it was just a crisis that we had previously talked about and mentioned and go, well, if it does occur, we've kind of already talked about it and we might have to make a few more adjustments, and then we did. Because
if you've not got the foundations, if you've not had the plan, that occurs and it's like, oh, what we're doing.
Yeah.
You're emotional because something's happened to your dad. Husband's like, oh crap, what's the best move? How can I support it? And then it's all stress. And then if things don't go to plan and then dad passes away and an opportunity is missed, then ingrained resentment forever.
Exactly. And then that's going to follow your relationship for the next however many years you're together.
Leading to curtains and all sorts.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. So if you have the opportunity to work on all this stuff as the relationship is developing.
Same as you go down to the gym and work on yourself.
You got
your bicep curl or something like that.
Yeah. And then, you have muscle memory. You develop, go to the gym, do your bicep curls, you get muscle memory. And then it goes away for a little bit. You might get busy with, other life or whatever. And then if you go back to the gym, guess what? There's muscle memory.
Yeah.
So that muscle will come back a little quicker. So you've already kind of touched on it once. Oh, it's here again. That kind of thing.
Tell me about your the essence of your TED Talk, whereby a date night is cheaper than divorce. Just briefly.
It was a little controversial because I
loved it.
I was really clear that I wanted date night was cheaper than a divorce.
Yeah.
And was told that was pretty controversial. And I kind of thought, well, that's kind of TED, it's to get people to sit up and think about what's being said. And so I've seen obviously too many people on the crisis end as opposed to the education end. And I know that, and there's great research to support it, that if you do continue to do date night, if you do continue to work on the spark, you're not going to end up in a divorce. You're going to learn the skills you need in order to have conversations in your relationship and get closer and stay connected. And I also know what divorce costs. And people say to me, oh, well, you just go to a lawyer, you pay the fee, you sign the forms. No. The cost of divorce is selling a house, buying a new house, renting, going from potentially one car to now 2 cars because you both need a car, or going from only having 2 couches to now having a couch set in your house and a couch set in her new house, or, you know, like there's the cost of divorce is huge. And, you know, if you have kids, it becomes even more expensive. So when I started actually looking into it, and I'm a true academic at heart. So for me, I looked at all the research behind it. And if you do actually spend money on your relationship, it's not going to end up in a divorce, because you're going to skill up and get strategies and all these other cool things. So you can negate a divorce almost. Whereas people initially think, oh, well, date night's expensive. Like, I got to pay for a babysitter, and then maybe we go out to dinner and that's expensive, and we got to pay for the, you know, the Uber ride out there or something, and that's expensive, or whatever. Like, people go, just going on a date's expensive. Yeah, well, a divorce is a shitload more expensive. So if you just go on a regular date, and it could be, again, we live in one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Yeah.
Go down to the beach, go to Kings Park, hang out.
Have a walk, have a picnic.
Have a walk. There's a beautiful river or an ocean. Walk around it. You know, like, you won't walk around the ocean, but you can walk around the river.
Yeah.
But there's so many low to no cost ways that people can enjoy each other's company. And I think what happens is people become very disillusioned in their own relationship, and they go, yeah, but what would we talk about? Why would we go on a date? Well, you don't ever know everything about your partner. And even if you asked a question at the start of the relationship, doesn't mean that that's how you feel you're going to answer. Exactly. Chances are you're going to answer differently. And there's so many questions to ask. And stay curious. That's my thing. It's like, Henry Ford, way back in the day, always said, stay curious, because your mind can always expand if you stay curious. And I think it's the same thing in a relationship. If you stay curious in your relationship, it's not going to fizzle out. Because I'm going to say, like, if you could have anybody, dead or alive, at the dinner table with us tonight, who would you want to have and why? I'm going to say not too many people have asked that question in their relationship. Some people have, but not too many people have. And if you start asking questions like that, and then you go, oh, that's fascinating. Why that person? Because my answer is this one, you know, and then it develops better communication. So disconnect, put your phones down. You don't need a phone. You have, like, in our situation, we have 2 kids. You hire a babysitter. I am paying someone a lot of money to watch my children. And if my house burns down, I am paying that person to call a fire truck. Yeah. And if my kids get sick or break an arm, I am paying that person to have a car to drive my kids to a hospital or call an ambulance.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to have my phone on me at all times. I'm paying this person to do a job. They can write me a little note to say, by the way, we've gone blah, blah, blah. Or they could text me, but my phone's going to be in my purse and I'm not going to look at it until I need to be looking at it, like on the way home or something. You know, so there's things like that people go, oh, but I have to have my phone on me. No. Sit down and have dinner with your partner. Look at your partner in their eyes and have a conversation. Just sit in a park and talk to each other. You know, all these things. But again, people are like, but what am I going to talk to my partner about? If you're struggling with what to talk to your partner about, come and see me. That's it. That's my plug. Come and see me, because you should never, even like 40 years on, it shouldn't be we have nothing to talk about. Bullshit. You have heaps to talk about. You're just choosing not to.
How do you see the state of relationships in Western Australia?
Good question. Western Australia is a little bit different to other parts of the country because we do have a very strong FIFO, so fly in, fly out base here. And
you need rock solid foundations.
You need rock solid foundation. Oh, guess what? Geology. No. Rock solid foundation in your relationships, really to support and maintain a FIFO relationship. There's heaps of benefits to a FIFO relationship. However, there's also heaps of drawbacks. And if the drawbacks are not managed appropriately or discussed in an open, honest, and genuine manner, then that can mean the demise of your relationship. And so, again, because I know that we live in a society that people don't want to see a relationship educator and wait till, the crisis end to come and see somebody. If people, especially FIFO relationship people, got relationship education and created their foundation early in their relationship, we wouldn't have near the divorce rates we have. We wouldn't have near the mental health issues we have. We wouldn't have all
mental health issues.
Major mental health issues. So depression, anxiety. Currently in Australia, 1 in 5 people will experience a major mental illness within the year. So anxiety, depression, substance use. And personally, that's way too high.
Yeah.
And we also know that if you talk about it or you get help or those kind of things are really, really important. And the number one person that you could and should be talking to is your partner. And so in Western Australia, we do tend to have a little bit of a higher divorce rate than the rest of the country. And I think in reality, it's kind of around the FIFO situation. And it's just not managed properly. And if anyone, they're a really great candidate. Anyone in a FIFO relationship is a really great candidate for relationship education. And just saying, how do we lay the right foundation so that when I am gone for 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time, how do we manage that? And then when I am back, how do we manage that without any resentment or without any issues pertaining to the relationship that may have come up while you're gone?
Yeah, because you've spent 4 weeks flat out at work. You want a bit of you time.
Yeah. But the flip side is whoever stayed home has spent 4 weeks flat out with managing the house, the kids, and life. The other. Yeah. Right? So it's the same argument, but it sounds different when you're hearing it.
Yeah.
So one partner might go, well, I just spent, 4 weeks of doing 16-hour days and I'm exhausted.
Yeah, sharing a donga with a dude. And
exactly. Well, I've just spent 4 weeks of doing 24-hour days with 2 kids and I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And so what happens
and even the 24-hour period is a microcosm of that. I've just been at work all day. I've just been with the kids all day.
Yeah, exactly. And so it becomes a resentment issue. And we know resentment is like one of those relationship killers. Because it's what's said and unsaid, or not, really what's unsaid. And then assumptions.
Lies of omission.
Oh, big time.
Yes.
So it really puts relationships on the back burner. And, some relationships are great and they go, oh, I can't wait for my partner to come home. And then other situations, it's like, oh, my partner's home for a week. I can't wait for him to go back up on site.
That's not good.
No, not at all. But there's the golden handcuffs that we all know too well of being a FIFO worker. And then
particularly if you leverage up your lifestyle to meet that.
Exactly. And then because recently we've gone through a really bad spell in mining, especially in Western Australia, where it was very difficult to get a permanent job or a job. And so if you've leveled up your lifestyle and then you've lost your job or, you can't maintain that lifestyle, that becomes another huge issue and impact on the relationship.
Finance.
Yeah. Oh, funny that. Finance. And we can't afford our house and we have to move and we can't afford 2 cars. We have to decrease down to 1 car. Well, how do you do that? Oh, and we can't afford healthcare insurance anymore. So what do you do? And we can't afford, when you've spoken about that foundation early on, and then you can say, hey, we've already talked about it. Now the crisis is coming up. You're about to lose your job. What do we do? Where's our nest egg? What have we, how do we navigate this? Then it's not that big of a problem. But because the foundation isn't talked about, problem becomes massive.
How have you managed to build your profile business beyond just the consulting route? Because there you are, you're on stage at TEDx where I first sort of saw you. I was like, ooh. But
and I had a series on ABC too, so that was fun, called Lukewarm Sex with the comedian Luke McGregor. That was really fun. So it was called Lukewarm Sex, and it was super fun. How have I built up? I would say first and foremost with a ridiculously supportive and understanding husband.
Right.
So that is, I always give crazy amount of credit to him, because there's no way possible would I be able to do what I do, how I do it, and the hours I do it in, unless he was supportive of my situation and where I'm at. So my husband is like a rock solid foundation for me and really supportive. He sees my vision and where it will get me and where it will get us and where it'll get our family. And he supports me through that. There's always going to be some ups and downs. I love to travel. So I am an international speaker and I do travel quite a lot. I probably travel roughly 7 months out of the year, speaking at conferences and running workshops and all that kind of stuff, literally around the world. And I love it. And that, if all of a sudden we had this, relationship conversation and it was, you need to stay at home. Oh, I don't know how well that would go over. It's not something that I really feel I couldn't be a 9-to-5, sit down at home, raise your kids, be a housewife. I just couldn't do that. So for us, we've kind of found a way that I can travel the amount I do travel, and that when I am home, I really focus on family. So school holidays, I don't work during school holidays. I take that time and we go on camping trips together as a family and we fully disconnect. No phones, no computers, no iPads, nothing like that. We take overseas holidays that we go as a family. So whenever I am in town, it is fully relationship and family focused. And whenever I'm out of town, he picks up the slack essentially, because he lives it very much like a FIFO relationship. He's there for the kids. He brings them to their sports things. He gets them up in the morning and gets them to school and all that other kind of stuff. So I think it's also understanding that balance, which is really, really important. And knowing it's not just for me. The bigger picture is for us.
It's not just because Amanda wants to go traveling.
Yeah, Amanda wants to travel, therefore take care of the kids. No, it's not that. And in reality, although travel sounds great, it sounds wonderful. However, it's like I'll give you an example. So
I was a management consultant in England. Travel is not so glamorous.
Yeah, so people are like, oh wow, you travel 7 months out of the year. I'm like, okay, so here's an example. I did a training in Bali last year, which again, people were like, and I was in Ubud in the middle of the forest and it was stunningly beautiful. That's pretty much the extent of it. Because I flew into town, I take the 2-hour taxi to the hotel. I get there very late at night. I set up the room for the training. The training is a 4-day training. It goes from 8 o'clock in the morning till nearly 7:30 at night. Close up from the training. Everybody leaves. I'm the trainer, so I'm the last to leave. So really, I'm not leaving till nearly 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. Go back to my hotel room. At that point, order some food and decompress from the day. Don't go for a swim because I'm kind of exhausted. Get some food in me because I realize that eating kind of important. Go to sleep, and then I'm up again the next morning at 6 a.m. doing the training all over again. So 4 days of training, eating late at night, going to bed, waking up, doing the same thing. And then as soon as the training is done, taking a 2-hour taxi ride back to the airport, getting to the airport in time in order to check in, and then getting on an airplane. However, I have to say I was pretty excited. I got a massage at the airport.
Right.
So people are like, oh, it's so glamorous. You probably
that's like 5 days, 5-6 days.
Yeah. So you spend your day relaxing and getting a massage and getting your nails done. I'm like, no, actually, I got a foot massage at the airport waiting for my plane to take off. So
I was working on it.
Yeah.
Holiday.
So people are like, oh, it's so glamorous. And I'm like, no, I fly out somewhere. When I speak at conferences over East, I fly out, I arrive, I speak at a conference, I maybe stay for lunch, and I get back to the airport and I fly back to Perth to be at home with my kids for dinner. You know, so it's a lot of travel, but not a lot of vacation in that sense when I'm working.
Yeah.
And so when I'm not working, I love being on vacation mode with my kids. So, yeah.
So through all of your work, what are some of the key things you've learned about yourself?
One of the funniest things my husband actually brought to my attention. So he knows that I see clients, and I see clients till very late at night. So usually till about 10 o'clock at night. And I can start seeing clients from 6 o'clock in the morning. So, and the reason I see clients early and late is because most people don't want to say, oh, we're taking off to see our therapist during the day. Like, you don't want to take off at work. And it would be two people who have to take time off because I see couples. So I do early mornings and late nights. And all my husband knows is that I'm seeing clients. So I'll say, oh, I'll be home tonight at 9:30, or I'll be home, you know, blah, blah, blah. So there was a spate of time that I was going home, and, you know, we kind of debrief and sit on the couch and, you know, have a cup of coffee or tea at night. And he said to me, he goes, aw, you saw couples tonight, didn't you? As opposed to like an individual or a one-on-one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I had 3 couples back to back tonight. And he's like, aw, how nice. And so I guess it was just a comment that he said just like that. And I was like, how does he know I saw couples? Like, he doesn't see my schedule. He doesn't see my clients' names or anything. So I'm like, how does he know? I'm going to have to ask him that. So this went on for like maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And he said, oh, you saw couples again tonight, didn't you? And I was like, okay, what's up? How do you know I saw couples? And he's like, because when you come home, you're so much nicer to me. And I was like, oh. And he goes, no, don't get me wrong. Like, you're usually really nice to me. But on the days that you see couples, you tend to be just like a notch nicer. And I'm like, really? So I really started to reflect on it. And I recognize that as I see couples, I do tend to value my own relationship. So like, it kind of gives me something as well. Yeah, because I go, you know, I see these people on crisis point as opposed to on, you know, spark courting point. And I think, God, I never, ever want my relationship to get to that point. I never want to yell at my husband or belittle my husband or degrade my husband in the way that some of my clients do. And they do it in front of me. Like, they show me their worst sides. And it really kind of gives me insight, which is great because I can help them and learn the skills and implement it in their relationships to move forward. But what it does for me personally is it goes, you're not at this point. Keep valuing your relationship and keep on top of your relationship so that you never do get to this point.
Yes.
So I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned is that seeing clients is very valuable to me personally, because then I go home and I really make sure I implement what I say to implement. So I always say I practice what I preach, and I legitimately do. And then the more I see clients, the more I really do, because then I go, I don't want my relationship to be like this. Yeah.
What does the next 3 to 5 years look like?
Exciting. A few book launches, which is great. So a few more books on the way, which is really exciting. I'm actually really looking forward to that. One is Neuron Press. So it's like, it should be out by my birthday, which is in July.
Cool.
So disconnect to reconnect. So finding the time to actually disconnect from your technology and life in general to reconnect in your relationship, which is important. One other one is kind of making its way around the rounds right now for a release hopefully in January. So that's on the horizon. A lot more travel. I love speaking at conferences, and I love speaking out and doing workshops and facilitation so that people really do get the best out of their relationships and make sure that they're on point with their mental health. So next 3 to 5 years is, watch the space. Exciting times ahead. More books. You'll probably see a lot more of me, which I'm totally okay with.
Yes. Yeah, I'll have you back.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah.
And so constantly growing. I think I don't see it as I've hit a really nice plateau and I just want to stay here. I always look forward and think, what more can I do? How much more exciting can this get? How can I better what's going on in the world around relationships and mental health and grief and loss and life transitions, and how do I help people do that?
What do you do to keep yourself grounded? Because it's all very heady, great stuff.
So one of my favorite things to do is to watch movies. So I will regularly take myself to a movie. So if I'm in town and my husband's at work and my kids are at school, I'll either take myself to the movies and just zone out and watch a movie, which I love to do. I will get massages. I think that's a really nice way to kind of just clear your mind and get back in touch with yourself. So massages are another really good thing. And I love to just put headphones on, listen to dance music, and walk. So I'll walk around a block, but you'll see me kind of like grooving out. It's not just like a speed walk. It's like a grooving out to the music. Potentially you might hear me singing out loud if you're close enough and I don't notice you. So that's really, I kind of stay grounded that way. And I think anytime you have kids, they're a really great grounding source too.
Yes.
Because it's like, yeah, mom is, this international speaker and travels the world and da-da-da-da-da.
I don't care about that.
But I don't care about that. Mom, you're just a mom. And,
yeah.
You're here to sign off on my homework and hang out with me and show up at, special friends days and, stuff like that. So, yeah, kids are my grounding force, and just hanging with my husband's awesome. Just, chill time and hang.
And one of the last questions I've been asking my guests, if you could take one little nugget of information and upload it into the collective consciousness so everyone just gets it, what would that be?
Relationship education is the most important thing you can do for your relationship. The most important thing. Yeah. So that is like, all the other stuff is just material bullshit. And it's like, if you want to have the best relationship possible ever, learn how to have that relationship. So
don't just sit and expect it to turn up, come through the front door.
Yeah. Like, I put all this hard work into getting my partner. It's all great, all good, all done. Now I can sit back and no. No. Relationship education is worth its weight in gold. And if you value yourself, and if you value the relationship, and you want the relationship to last, which most people do, there's just an assumption of mine, but most people get into a relationship hoping it will last. Get some relationship education. There's great educators around the world. Get on board. Make sure they're actual relationship educators. Make sure that they have some skills and knowledge behind them. Don't just kind of go to anyone who's put up a sign in their door saying that maybe they can do it. Check them out. Make sure they're legit. Make sure that they actually know what they're doing, and then go from there.
Where's some of the best places we can go here in WA? Obviously
me?
Yourself.
Me? Feel free to give me a call. Book yourself in on my website. No. In WA, there's actually a heap of us. There's a good amount of relationship educators. And I think for me, it's, if they're Gottman trained, so that's a good thing to look at.
Gottman.
So Gottman, Julie and John Gottman are a husband and wife out of Seattle. And they are by far the most prolific relationship researchers, academic researchers. And they have a training program. So if the educator or the therapist or counselor is Gottman trained, that's a really good starting point. Yeah, definitely gold standard. If they are Prepare Enrich trained, so Prepare Enrich is a program that is run, again, worldwide, but there's some really amazing, I'm a facilitator in the state, of WA, but there's some amazingly well-trained facilitators in Prepare Enrich. That's, to me, again, a program worth its weight in gold, and it's strategically for relationship education. So how to set the foundation. You do a little inventory. Some people call it a test. It's not a test. It's an inventory of a whole bunch of questions, and you just do it that way. So looking for someone who's Prepare Enrich trained is really important as well. And looking for someone who specializes in relationships. Don't just go to, Joe Blow down the street who is pretty good at depression.
Yeah, depression, anxiety, relationship, sexual dysfunction. The whole gambit.
Legitimately go for someone who specializes in this area. Don't go for somebody who specializes in, teen mental health. Well, that's not going to help your relationship. So there's a few little caveats like that if you look for someone who has knowledge and training in Prepare Enrich, someone who has knowledge and training in Gottman therapy, and then, someone who really focuses on couples, I would say those are 3 big ticks I would look for before I ever gave any of my relationship information out to somebody.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. It's, I just feel like I've had this amazing opportunity to tap into all of this knowledge but what's most striking is how bloody straightforward it is.
It's not rocket science.
Yes.
And that's what I say to people.
It almost strikes me as like the journey might present its challenges, and that's part of the human experience. But the process, the things that you can go and do about it it's just very straightforward. And the underlying concept of the fact that if you want a great relationship, and why would you want anything less?
Exactly.
Because it's expensive and crappy and you're going to die sooner.
Exactly.
Summarising what we've been talking about. But if you why would you want that for yourself? Mm-hmm. And so therefore, turn it on your head, go and get yourself skilled up, go and learn it, go and have some of those difficult conversations, work your way through it, work your way how to do it.
And also, once you have the skill, be consistent in applying them. So it's not just like, grab the book, read it, put it on the shelf, never look at it again. I
can do relationships now.
Yeah, exactly. I got this. No, it's consistently apply.
Doing it.
And then when you kind of falter on applying it because you're falling slowly back into your habits, be comfortable enough with your partner to say, oh, this is one of those things I need now. Yeah. Knowing it's not going to harm each other or the relationship. Like, hey babe, could you help out with this? Or, oh, I totally forgot. Sorry. Those kind of things. So consistently applying those strategies and skills is really important.
And if anyone wants to find you, where can they find you?
They can find me in Perth, Western Australia, or somewhere else around the world while I'm traveling. But you can go to my website. Yeah, exactly. Go to my website, amandalambros.com. And you can find out all about me and the services I offer, and you can even book straight online. My entire calendar is on my website, so amandalambros.com. Or find me on Instagram, or find me on Facebook, or, I'm everywhere. Just go to Google, type in Amanda Lambros. You're bound to find me somewhere and get in touch.
YouTube, watch the TEDx talk.
Absolutely. Watch TED Ed, my TEDx talk. Date night's cheaper than a divorce.
Yeah.
Add to my numbers. That'll be great. Maybe watch a little bit of Lukewarm Sex on ABC. I know you can download that on ABC iView.
There you go.
So yeah.
It's all that.
Yeah.
And buy the book when it comes out.
Absolutely buy the book, for sure. So yeah.
There we go. Amanda, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Bryn.
Thank you very much.
No worries.